everyone, it's Lindsay from My Crafty Plans. Welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, welcome. It is time to get all set up for the month of February. I am so excited. This is one of my favorite planner seasons, even though I'm not super Valentine's Day person in real life. In my planner, I love all of the pink, hot pink, red, and I am just gonna have so much fun with this plan with me. This is my Erin Condren Family Organizer, which is my main monthly planner. I use this for functional planning. It also has some memory keeping elements in this, and I use this for my entire life. So for planning all areas of my life, not just family stuff, I'm obsessed with this planner. It worked so well in January. I will be flipping through my January spreads to start us off, but I just want to let you know that I am absolutely loving this. So Erin Condren first launched this planner for the July 2022 start planner. So this is a pretty new product and I absolutely love it. As soon as I saw it, I was just like, this is going to be so great, because what it is it's a monthly calendar with tons and tons of dashboard space. And that is exactly what I like for monthly planning. I find monthly planning really, really functional. I know a lot of people don't, but I definitely utilize my monthly calendar spread a ton, and also my dashboard spreads. I've really come to rely on them. So far, this has been working really well for me. I get it all set up at the beginning of the month, and then I check in with it every week when I'm doing my weekly overview spreads, as I'm setting my weekly actions, to see what I have going on and to see like all of the other components. I did a lot of the memory keeping stuff in here towards the back of the month, and I'm just really, really enjoying the way that this is working so far. So we're gonna keep going with this for February. This was my January setup. The cover page here just has like the days are long, but the years are short, like little quote page on the front. And this is the Harmony Neutral colorway. So for the first month of the year, I really did lean into like that soft pink color. I thought that was really, really beautiful, but it also matched super well with this Simply Gilded sticker kit that I had from Days of Simply Gilded from the Advent calendar this year. And I pulled in some other Simply Gilded Washis and some other stuff as well, and just made that work for January. And I absolutely love the way that this looks. It's really soft and pretty. I have 6 life areas that I use for color coding on my calendar, stuff related to social media, my industry work, appointments, kid stuff, finances, and other. And this is how my month of January turned out. Really loving the way that this looks. Wasn't too busy of a month, although it felt really busy. There was just definitely a lot going on. And next month will be no change from that. So we start off with a calendar spread, and then we have all of our dashboard pages. I've come to think of this as kind of like the main dashboard page. So you've got a recurring schedule, and then these little boxes on this side. I use this bottom one for decoration, and then I split this one between appointments that I need to schedule and work projects. I will probably keep that all the same for the month ahead. I thought that this double page spread worked super well for me in January. And then over here, we've got our goals and family goals. So this was just like a listing section. So I used this as my monthly task list, the things that I translate over from my Moxie Life. If you don't know, I use the Moxie Life system for my goal setting, and I have these in the quarterly companion notebooks, but I do like to go through my goals, and then just as I read through them, I'd see, okay, this is a task-oriented thing, so it belongs on a task list. This is a habit, so I can put it in a habit tracker. And I do that weekly, and I also do that monthly. So we'll be doing the same thing. I have already set up my February goals in here. That video is already up, so you can check that out if you haven't already. But basically, we're gonna use this page as to be like the translation from my Moxie Life into my functional planner. When I write it in my goals, I like think about the life impact. I think about the Moxie Life areas, but when I transfer it into here, I tend to think about like the actual execution of the goal. So for me, even though it is some copying, it doesn't feel repetitive. I try not to repeat things throughout my planner. There is like a slight bit of overlap, but when there is overlap, I try and make it productive overlap, not just rewriting something down for the sake of writing it down in a different planner. So I did really like how all this stuff works. I'm not really sure the habit tracker was like the exact right thing. I did tend to use the same habits again and again in the month of January, so that was fine. I don't necessarily need to have them in here. It's nice to have a list to pull from somewhere, and I did have that in my planner last year as well, but I'm gonna think a little bit more about that little section. But other than that, those other sections should be pretty much the same in February. Then we had these school specific sections here. So I just split my school page into two because we are community members of two different schools, the elementary school where my oldest goes and the preschool where my younger two goes. And then we have our key dates here, which again, I use for like all key dates, not just school stuff, but I actually didn't do this on purpose, but it ended up happening throughout the month that I use one of the columns for things in this month and one of the columns for things like coming up next month. And I do find that really helpful. So I think I'm going to formalize that for February. And then I just did a little journaling section down here. There's a lot of memory keeping space in this planner. And I'm one of my plans, one of my takeaways from January is for February to maybe create just slightly more structure around that memory keeping space for myself so that I'm fully utilizing it. This one I ended up just using as like a little journaling section and just wrote a little paragraph. And then this one says extracurriculars. I didn't really know how much extracurricular stuff I would have to put. We don't have a ton of extracurriculars. My kids are on the young side, but I did track their piano homework, which was nice. And then, I have this space in case anything else comes up, but I may repurpose this page in the month of February. And then here we had milestones and achievements and more memory space. So I did a lot of this memory keeping stuff at the end of the month, as I said before. So when I was starting to write it, I realized that I probably had more space than I needed. So I wanted to do the milestones and achievements. So I just wrote like one key thing for each of the kids that felt like some kind of milestone. Like for my oldest, I wrote about her reading. So that was just nice, like one key thing for each of them. And then it's not like it'll be nice to look back of, but it didn't take me like a super long time to track through or anything. We're kind of past the point where we're counting on first words for steps or anything like that, but there's still always other milestones that your kids are hitting. Then in this next section below, I ended up just repurposing this and I wrote down all of the books that I read this month. So I read 5 books this month, and actually, one of them I read twice, and the reread, I did like a really slow reread of something, which is something that I do when I really, really like a book. And that book was called A Taste of Golden Iron. If you're into fantasy, highly recommend. It's one of the best things I've read recently, but I just wrote down all of the books and I actually wrote down my ratings, which is nice because I did a really bad job with tracking what I read last year. So I'm definitely, I don't know if it's going to be in the same spot, but I definitely want to carry that forward into February. And then these were my social media pages, a little bit hectic and chaotic on here, but I just used this for tracking all of my like social media stuff that I wanted to keep track of. And then so you get 4 pages of blank notes. So that was the first 2 blank notes. And then the second 2 blank notes, I just made this like running list of like bucketed list, just left this as extra notes pages, which is handy. I did use it a little bit. Sometimes I use stuff like this more than others. This month I would say like maybe like a medium amount. I obviously could have fit this all on one page, but I had the space to spread out into. So I will probably keep doing that for next month as well, just because I don't have anything else that I need to track. And then here we have some more memory keeping pages. So this last page, which says more memories or milestones, I turned this into my line a day memory keeper. It worked really well there. It is actually the 30th right now, so I'm all caught up in here. And then we had just like some little sections here, and I just tried to do the favorites for this month. I did some kid stuff, some stuff that I loved. We've had some funniest things that were said, just like some more kind of memory and journaling space. Like I said, there's a lot of journaling and memory space in here, and I think that these prompts are really, really good, but I think that for some of the other space, I think adding in a little bit more structure about what I want to do, which I ended up doing in the back end, but making that a little bit more explicit in the beginning of the month is maybe something that I want to explore for February. Speaking of which, here is the February. You do get this one extra note sheet by the cover page, and I made that a notes for February, which a lot of times I do end up using this, but I didn't this month, so it's just gonna stay blank like that for now, but I will probably set that up for March. Then the February color is like this really pretty soft purple color, but this is what I wanna do. This is my inspiration. I don't have a sticker kit. I have got like some random stickers and stuff like that picked out, but this is really what we're gonna be working with here. All of the Simply Gilded stuff, a lot of this is from the new Valentine's Day release, so we're just gonna kind of work with this. I will be covering up some of the purple, and I've got like a more pinky color palette picked out. I do actually have one pen picked out that really matches this color though, because in the areas where I feel like it's really, really hard to color it to cover this color up, I thought I might end up wanting to like lean more into that. So I did pull out just like one marker in that color to just kind of help me out here. And I actually have a dot marker that matches this really well too. So we might be kind of jumping around a little bit, but for the most part, I'm gonna go with like this pink and red situation. So anyway, with that being said, let's dive in. So once again, I am going to record this as a sped up voiceover. If there are parts of this planning process that you would like to see as a talk through, definitely let me know in the comments down below and I will try and make that happen. But the monthly planning does actually take a really long time, just going through all of my calendars, getting everything organized, going through all of the school documents. There's like a lot of back and forth that goes on during this process, not to mention setting up all of the dashboards and everything like that. So it's just become a little bit easier to spread this out over a couple of days, first of all, because it does, like I said, take a really long time, but then also just do it as a voiceover. So that way I can get all of my stuff together, run around, text and call the people that I need to call. This is definitely a whole process, but for me, it's absolutely worth it because it just ends up saving me a lot of time, like throughout the month, having all of this stuff all together in one place and all set up in advance, and all of the spaces that I will be using set up in advance. So there's like things that I set up in the beginning of the month that I won't fill out till later in the month. And I just feel like for me, it's the same thing I always say about my Moxie Life, my weekly reflections. When I set them up at the beginning of the week, I'm much more likely to use them. And that's definitely been the case with this planner, which I am absolutely loving, which I probably said in the intro. This has been a really great choice for me. I'm really happy with this, and it's become like I'm using it a lot, and even more than I was using last year, and I feel like I was already relying on my monthly spreads a lot last year. So it's been really nice. I did like the memory keeping as well, and I'm still kind of like playing around with that, but I want to utilize that more, especially because I haven't really been filming stickering memory spreads and doing that kind of stuff. So this memory keeping is becoming more central to, the way I record my life. I do hope to do more memory spreads, but we've got a lot of life stuff going on right now, and I just haven't really felt like doing that, and I don't want to force it, because when I force it, I'm never happy with how the spreads turned out. Anyway, I am putting in my same color code as usual, except for you'll notice in just a second that I'm about to write financial twice, or finances twice, and I do eventually swap that bottom one out to be my appointments, which was the thing that I forgot. I just got a little confused while I was writing. It would probably be easier if I always went in the same order of like what words I wrote, but I always do the colors in like a particular color order based on that, and then assign the word categories just based on what I'm feeling. But I should probably not do that, because this is probably the third or fourth month in like recent months that I've accidentally messed up the key in some way, shape, or form. And then I found these extra stickers from Scribble Prints Co. This was from like a random grab bag that is from like a really old Valentine's Day kit, and it matched so perfectly with the washi. So I just pulled in like a couple of the labels later on and some of the deco into this spread, but just loving all of the Simply Gilded Valentine's releases. I just wanted to use them as much as possible this month. You'll see them in my daily planner and my weekly planner. I'm just really, really into it. So there you go. When I went to put down the paydays, I realized that I had finances written twice. So I fixed that up, and I actually used a foiled script to go ahead and put the appointments in, because I didn't want to write on top of the marker on top of all of that whiteout. So I'm just transferring a few different things over, mostly from my Google Calendar and like from the kids' school calendars. I end up having to do part of this off camera. There was just like a little bit of calendar confusion, and then my camera cut off. It was just a whole thing. So I just finished it up offline. There is a lot going on this month. I will have even more to add on to this, but yeah, we just already had like a lot of stuff scheduled, and we've got our little long weekend coming up, plus the kids have another long weekend the weekend after that for President's Day. We're not going anywhere for that one, but we are going skiing the weekend before, which is actually what I'm putting down now with the washi, and just a lot of other general stuff going on. And then the last thing that I will put in is also my YouTube calendar, or my YouTube schedule for the month. So all of my longer videos. And I actually just decided to do a video every Tuesday and every Friday this month, just to make things really easy and also lighten the load a little bit for this month. Like I said, it's very busy. If you saw my goals video, my mother-in-law is now staying with us while she's recuperating from some surgery. So just wanted to make things a little bit easier and simpler for myself. So then likewise, pairing with my calendar, now we also have the recurring schedule. So I took out all of the things from my calendar to make a little more space of anything that happens like the same time every week. Like I don't put in our cleaning service, I don't put in the kids' activities that are always at the same time during the week. If there's ever a week where they don't have it, I'll put that they don't have it on the calendar. But for the ones that happen every week now, I put them in the recurring schedule, which has been really nice. I also put like my daughter's homework schedule. She has like a pretty set homework schedule. She's only in first grade. It's not anything too taxing. My regular work assignments that are always due at the same time, any to-dos that like always happen at the same time, anything like that, I go ahead and put into the recurring schedule. I kept flipping back and forth between this, the calendar, and my January because I just kept feeling like I was missing something. And then it turned out that I had totally forgotten the extracurricular activities. So I do eventually get them in. And I'm trying to use also the same color coding that I used on the calendar spread. I kind of stick with that throughout the rest, but in some of the other spreads where it's like really focused on one specific life area and it's not, going to pull in a bunch of other things like on my social media pages, I did just try and match the washies as well. So it's mostly color coordinated, but there's so many different pinks. So I was starting to get a little confused anyways, which I feel like always happens, but I do like to change up the color code because it just lets me, like in the Moxie Life, I know those colors by heart and I always use them in my Moxie Life and it like immediately separates things into my mind in those categories. But in the monthly calendar, I do like for this to look a little bit decorated too, or very decorated too. I just think it's really fun. So I'd rather match the washies and just have to look at the key every 5 seconds. And that's fine. It mostly works out okay. And if I make a mistake, it's totally fine. I just work around it, or sometimes I don't even bother to fix it because mostly I just need this information. And every week when I go to set up my weekly overview, when I do my weekly actions, I look at mostly the calendar, like the monthly calendar, and then the recurring schedule to see kind of where things are at. And I use that as the starting point for my weekly overview, along with obviously my February goals. So then in those other boxes next to the recurring schedule, I kept this the same as last month. So I've got a section there that's going to be for appointments that I need to get scheduled this month. So things that are coming up for future months that I need to go ahead and schedule this month. And then I also made a little work section, and I'm actually splitting that this month. I split it a little bit in between like my regular industry work, and then I have some paid work related to my channels this month as well coming up. So I went ahead and put those in as well, since they are paid projects and not like videos that I'm filming for my own channel. So that was really nice. And then I used that big box as another decorative box, same as last month. So this whole page, actually both of these pages really end up being the same kind of basic structure as last month. I do make some changes like later into the dashboards, but because I wasn't using a sticker kit, I didn't have like the full boxes or anything. So I just used some of the washies. That little Valentine's Games washi, I think it's called Love Games, is just it's one of my favorites. That little set, it's so cute. I'm just really obsessed with it. And then I just wrote love, which is honestly randomly one of my favorite words to hand letter. So I grabbed a Tombow and did that as well. And then this page, there's going to be some cuts here. It took me a really long time to figure out how to cover up all of these dots. And I was just like, I already committed to doing this. I'm going for it. Then I remembered I had these stickers from Planner Kate that are like the checklist stickers. So I went ahead and covered all of the boxes on all of the little dots on the page. I initially had tried to cover them with like markers, but I was having to press down so hard to like cover the color that it was starting to bleed through to the next page. So I was just like, okay, nope, we need a sticker or something here. I did eventually get them all covered. I think it looks really cute with the bolder black. It took forever. I don't know that I want to do that again, but it does look really nice. So then up here at the top is my monthly task list. So this is largely transferred over from my Moxie Life, from my February goals. Anything that is a concrete task from my goals goes into this list, and I think about the execution here. So sometimes a goal in something written in my Moxie Life will be split into goals, or sometimes a couple of goals will be rolled up into one, and I would just think about how it's executed for that, versus in Moxie Life where I tend to think about like the life area and the life impact. So it's just like a little bit of a functional translation from my goals. And then likewise on the bottom, we've got our habits, the habits that I'm working on, and the habits that I'm working on with like the kids or with the family. And I was like, I'm still trying to figure out that habit tracker situation down there, because I'm not using this as an actual habit tracker. It's just like a list of my habits, and I would like to find something a little bit more functional to do with that space, but we can explore that in March. And then on that section where I've covered it up, that was the section that was called family goals. And so I wrote just like I copied over and combined together a couple of our family goals from across the Moxie Life areas into this area. And it's mostly around getting my mother-in-law situated and just making sure everything is going well with that and with the kids sharing a room now, all of that kind of stuff. So that is what's going on there. And that is when I finally realized what I was missing from my weekly recurring schedule, where I was just like having one of those moments where I'm like, I know something is missing and I cannot figure out what it was. And it ended up being just really obvious piano lessons. So anyway, I'm just adding in that I need to schedule an OB appointment this month. And then we are on to the next page here. So here we have a section for schools, and then the opposite side, it's got like a little dates to remember and then a memories and milestones. And I end up setting this up kind of the same way as last month, except I carved out a more specific space for PTA work this month rather than lumping that in with the elementary. So I'm going to set up 3 little flags here, one for like elementary school, which my first grader actually has a lot of project stuff this month. So there was a few things that I'm already going to be like keeping track of up in there, the Valentine's Day stuff. This is actually our first year celebrating Valentine's Day in the school, which I am not going to lie, I'm a little bit excited about. Our preschool does not do Valentine's Day, so which is actually helpful, but I'm going to like go get the cards and whatever for her to do for her class. Super cute. And then, yeah, I set up the space for preschool, and because all of the kids' birthdays are coming up in March, I feel like all of the schools have different ways of handling birthdays, but there's more things for me to coordinate for all of the schools this month than there was last month. So anyway, with that, and then also just like I said, I split out the PTA stuff into its own flag. It was pretty small, but there's not too much going on with the PTA this month. I think next month there'll be a lot more because we've got a big fundraiser coming up in March. Anyway, then we've got the dates to remember, which I decided to use this hot pink washi, this little 5mm, to cover up all of the dots there. But I'm going to go ahead and then draw in my own circles using my Chrissy-Ann Design stencil. And I did split this more specifically this month as key dates for this month to remember, and then things that are coming up, which the only thing I put in the coming up list for right now is Go Wild, but there will be more stuff as I schedule it in as we get into later in the month. And that's not necessarily just meant to be March. I could put things for later in the year if I have like dates that I need to keep in mind going forward. And then the memories and milestone, I just left that one the way it is. I didn't add anything in there. That was the one where I did my journaling space last time. So I'm going to leave that blank for now, and then we can see how I'm feeling later in the month. I was mostly transferring over some key school dates from there, but there was some other like extracurricular and other random stuff that will go in that list as well. I was trying to make it like not appointments, but more like due dates, since I have the appointments in the calendar, and I don't know, I'm still experimenting with it. Sometimes it's helpful to have it as a list, especially when I'm like looking at the school checklists and then seeing the school dates next to it, but I don't necessarily need that to just be specifically school stuff, other life stuff as well. So then on the extracurriculars, I was still really not sure what to do for this day. I still set up the space to keep track of the piano songs that the kids are learning and everything, and then I just kind of partitioned off the bottom space, and I'm going to save that for later and just see what comes up, if anything. Otherwise, I might use it for extra memory space, but I was just like very much running out of steam and ideas, and I was like, I don't need to set up trackers for things that I don't need to track. Let's just see if something happens naturally. And then on the opposite page of that, I did set up my little milestones and achievements section, and then a little currently section where I'm going to continue to track the books, because I really, really like doing that for January, and it's fun to share the books that I'm reading a little bit more, which I was so bad at doing last year, and I am a pretty big reader. So then my YouTube page, which I set up pretty much the same way as last month, but I had just like moved the notes section down basically. But other than that, it's almost identical to the same page. I felt like the tracking on that worked really, really well. I am going to make a lot of changes on the tracking on the other side for Instagram and TikTok. That page, I filled it out every week, but it looked so chaotic. It's hard to like read anything because I kept adding more to it throughout the month and like figuring out more things that I I wanted to track because I haven't really done like a ton of tracking of analytics, none on TikTok and like very little on Instagram before this year, but I'm trying to do more of that tracking. So I feel like it's just kind of getting to know the process, and then versus YouTube where I've kind of been tracking this stuff for a while. So I have like a much better feel for, what's important to keep track of and what's just noise. So I'm sure I will keep kind of moving through the Instagram ones and refining and all that kind of stuff. But I did want to set up something because like I said, and this applies to any tracker, not just like social media stuff, literally any tracker. If you have it set up, you're more likely to use it. But if you have to go and like remake it every time you want to use it, then that's when it becomes really easy to like fall off the wagon with stuff like that. It like literally works for any kind of habit tracker, honestly. So anyway, that is what I'm doing over here. I got some of that red polka dot washi. That is not from the latest Valentine's Day release. That is an older Simply Gilded roll, but it's just, again, a really perfect cherry red, very close in color, if not the same, to the new like twinkle banner ones that came out with this Valentine's Day release. So I thought that was a really fun one to mix in. I love the polka dots. And again, just like I said, setting up a little bit more streamline of a Instagram tracker, but trying to keep all of the things that I did find functional from the last month, just making them a little bit more organized, and also just like a little bit more of a brain dump area. I really wanted more space to like jot down ideas and other things. I'm simultaneously, while I'm doing this, I've been cleaning up my Notion, Notion is an app. It's completely free, although there are like paid upgrades you can do to it, but I don't have any of them. It's on your phone, and you can also like access it via web browser, and I use that also for a lot of not just social media, but a lot of planning in my life when I want something digital, when I want something on my phone. I find it really useful. I do actually have a video on digital planning if you want to check that out, where I go over like what I have in that app, although it's obviously evolved from there, and I've been trying to clean out my Notion and like reorganize things in there. So this kind of goes along with that. And again, I like functional repetition in my planners, not just like repeating things for the sake of repeating. So I don't want like some overlap where it like makes sense or it's in a different way, but I don't want to just like have the same information digitally and non-digitally necessarily, if that makes sense. So then next up was just the plain notes pages, and I just put I'm working on a Go Wild list, birthday stuff, and then if anything else comes up. And then lastly, this was the page where I was like, I'm not trying to cover up these colors. We are just going with the purple, and I just added a little bit of washi for my memory keepers, but it's a really simple setup for my line a day memory keeper. And then the EC has like the guided memory prompts on the other side of the page, which I really enjoyed in January. So keeping them up. All right, let's take a last flip through, starting with, of course, my calendar page. I have just absolutely loved this planner in the month of January, and I know I'm gonna keep loving it in February. I will say this takes a lot of time up front to set up, much more than my old dashboard setup. That being said, I do feel like it's worth it, at least for right now. I'm getting a lot of functionality out of this, and I'm really utilizing the spaces once they're set up. So I never mind spending the time up front to get something set up, as long as I'm going to use it I feel like it's adding value, which for right now, I definitely feel like this does. I also think this looks super cute. And even though I don't really love Valentine's Day, like in real life, I really do in planners. So I am so into all this Simply Gilded washi. Super, super fun with all of the hot pink and red, like that really cherry red, really great. So that was the calendar. We've got the recurring schedule, things to schedule, some work projects, my task list for the month, some family themed goals, our habits down here. There was a lot of stickers this month to cover up the color. Definitely a little bit easier on these spreads to lean into the color than lean out of them. I will probably do more spreads where I lean into the color, but for Valentine's Day, I really wanted to go with this more hot pink look. We've got our school list split between the two schools that we participate in, dates to remember, which I did formally split as things for this month and things that are coming up. This little section, which I used as journaling space for last month. And then here we have extracurriculars. And then I'm not sure exactly what I'm gonna do in this section, but I definitely did not need all of that extracurricular space. So I just decided to go ahead and partition it off. Then we have the milestones or achievements. I really liked that last month, so I kept it. And then this will be my little currently section. It's in the same place. I just put the sticker down. So I'm gonna list out the books I read and anything else that I feel like listing. If I have more stuff that I wanna list, like if we really liked any TV shows or anything, anything like that. I maybe even will take both sections there. Then we've got my YouTube page, my more streamlined Instagram and TikTok page, so we'll see how that goes. And then my sort of guided notes section in the back here where I've already set up space for Go Wild and birthdays, and I'm sure there will be other things that come up as well. And then this page, I was not covering up the color on this page, so for the last two memory pages, we're gonna go with that purple. We'll fill this out as we go along as we get towards the end of the month, and of course, my line a day memory keeper. So that is everything for my February spreads all set up. I hope you enjoyed getting to watch me plan with this. Let me know in the comments down below, do you use a monthly planner? Do you use the monthly spreads in your planner? What are you using for monthly planning this year? Tell me all about it. I can't wait to hear. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. You can also check me out on Instagram and TikTok at mycraftyplans, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.